Hello, I wanted to share a game I had a couple days ago um, that I didn't see any kind of videos so far out there on this particular line in the Philidor defense. And so I'll get into this, and it goes into something which the database says is the Morphy Gambit, which I've been trying to explore more games of. But here it goes: e4, e5, knight f3, d6, and it's a very solid, but I guess you could say passive approach. And I've learned recently from other players that Philidor himself intended this to be an attacking line where black plays an early f5 after white plays d4, f5, and it would be an open and wild game from there. But I don't see anybody playing that way these days. More normal is to play knight f6, knight e7, bishop e7, castle, and just have a very solid structure, defensive structure as black. There's a line I play in the Philidor that I think is superior to this because I believe pawn to d4 on move 3 by white is maybe objectively the best move. I think bishop c4 is also okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think this seems to be, pawn to d4 seems to be the most popular in my games anyways. And after pawn to d4, the idea is then black can gambit the e-pawn. Well, actually, black would play bishop out first to pin this knight, and then black gambits the pawn. Knight d7, white takes, and now black has these pieces developed in exchange for the pawn. The idea of maybe castling along to queen e7, knight f6, but my opponent didn't do this and played, I guess you could say it's a more normal move, just capturing my d pawn, the z pawn, and I decided I didn't want to just play a regular game where maybe I recapture with this and he just starts developing normally, and I didn't want to go into that, so I played bishop to c4, which is now the games database calls this the Morphy Gambit. I guess because white doesn't aim to recapture this pawn on d4 immediately. And probably the best moves here for black is to just start getting ready to castle as fast as possible. So here he went, bishop e7, and I think that's okay. It's preventing me from, stops me from playing knight to g5 and doubling up on the f7 pawn, because if he played knight to f6 first, then that would be available to me. So he played bishop e7 first, and let's see here. So I played c3, which is a common move in gambits for white, because it just says, okay, I mean, if you want, you can take that, but more importantly, it opens up this diagonal for the queen to create a battery this early in the game. And really black should not take that pawn, should just play knight to f6, and after that white can just play queen to c2, and black can castle, and then white can either castle here or recapture the pawn and have two pawns in the center, and then it's still, I think, anybody's game. I'd say it's pretty equal. But he didn't do that. He took the pawn on c3, and then I played queen to b3, and already there's a problem. There's a pretty relatively small number of games in the database in this position. I guess because most people just wouldn't take there. But if they do, and if they're very materialistic and into grabbing pawns, they're going to pay for it. So already there's this battery, and there's a limited number of good moves black has. This would just fall to bishop takes h6, so it's kind of out of the question. Here, white just regains the pawn that way, and then there's a very aggressive queen on e6, and then this pawn will be gone, so maybe this will be too open. So he took again, I guess, just thinking if his king's going to be unsafe, he's going to get as much compensation for it as possible. And here, just go ahead and take the f7 pawn. And it's interesting the way he reacts after this. Of course, I'm not going to let him take a rook or a bishop or promote to a queen there. If I hadn't taken that, he just promotes to a queen here. So I have to take that. Then he wants to start trading pieces with me, which I guess is a normal reaction since he has an extra pawn. But I say, well, we'll trade a piece, but I don't want to trade this bishop. If you want, you can just take that knight if you want to. That's fine with me. And so he starts trying to kick my pieces away, so I move back. And I didn't play perfectly this game. I made a lot of mistakes and errors myself, but the idea is that I think it just put him under too much pressure, and that he couldn't really capitalize on my mistakes. So queen takes e4 check, reasonable, just grabs another pawn. I mean, if he's already going to be this way, he might as well just take as much as he can, but he really should be bringing other pieces out somewhere to try to activate his other pieces to have some kind of defense or counterattack. So he moved the queen off the e-file. I guess he sensed that I was going to move a rook to one of those, and that's correct. And so now I'm controlling all of this space around this king. So there's already putting the screws to him. So that's good. He brought a piece out. He's going to need more than that, though. And I guess I played this with the intention of moving another piece closer to his king. And I guess the idea is he wants this bishop, because he he wants to be able to give his king more space to move, maybe to move his queen somewhere else and play g6 and just have space for his king to move around. But I thought, well, this is the only piece besides the queen that is active, so, now it seems unlikely that either of these rooks will get to play in the game, so I don't see any reason why I shouldn't just take that and let him have a rook. But it doesn't help him much, because now this is maybe a mistake, but I just wanted to move pieces closer to his king. And he gives another check. And that's a mistake I made. I should have played maybe king to a c2 or somewhere else and not give him this check. But he just wanted to grab more material, I guess, and kick my knight away. And maybe he felt somewhat safe here because his queen and bishop are controlling these, and he maybe thought, well, I'm not going to be able to checkmate him with those pieces patrolling. But I just thought, well, I'll just threaten his queen, and I knew he was going to give another check. And I was okay with losing this knight as well, because I saw something, there was too much already for his king to handle. This queen by itself cannot hold off 3 or 4 pieces by itself. And again, this was maybe okay. I'd play the bishop back, but I think he's already lost here. And he just takes the knight. And rook to e1. And now he's running out of defenders. It's this queen by herself, or trying to hold everything down. Queen to f5. Again, just guarding here. And rook to e3, intending rook to f3. And he didn't like that, so he played g4. So that was good. And I thought, well, I'll just start kicking this queen around. Bishop d3, grabs another pawn. And now I think he's really in trouble, because this queen has to stay here now. We can't move there because there's a mate threat. Oh, and there was also a mate threat here, so there was 2 mate threats. So that's why he played bishop to d7. I took here. I realized that this back rank is becoming weak. The bishop here, the rook here, and the game's pretty much over now. So he just gives it, I guess it's a spite check. So I just block with the bishop, bishop e1. And the best move for him was really to play queen a6 and maybe give me this rook, or try to give a piece back in order to get his king away from the danger. But queen c4, and the game's over, because now I have queen c8, and bishop takes is the only legal move, because these squares are guarded. Queen's checking this way, so bishop takes is the only legal move, but after which rook t8's mate. So before I could even do that, he just abandoned the game. I guess he didn't want to go through it. But anyways, I didn't play perfectly, so this is not a model game or anything like that, but I think this is completely playable by white. And I'm going to experiment with it more, and you can see the engine evaluations. Here it's showing, of course, knight to f6 is the correct move, not to take here. And after he takes there, the evaluation goes to plus 1.3. Yeah. See already plus 2.3 here. So if you want to punish a very materialistic player, this is one way it could be done. Try it out.